what she said. She's magical, mystical, a powerful wonder girl.
From stripper stages, swish cabaret lounges to film sets and silky adventures through sexual minefields, Sonya Côté's new memoir, I'm Not Naked Anymore, covers it all. She's one of Canada's most celebrated and respected artists and joins us now in studio. Welcome to What She Said.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are very excited to have you in because early last year you released a little book that cataloged a few good stories from your life, but you say you felt you weren't being as authentic as you could or should have been. You want to tell us about that?
Well, this whole Me Too thing gives a lot of people permission to start talking about stuff. And as I like to say, I don't think that I felt kind of whole until I could put the whole package together. And ironically, the book was called How to Be Authentically You Without Taking Off Your Clothes. And then, as I say in my foreword, it's just, there's been such a march forward with so many things. I mean, first, when my book was being edited, Trump was sworn in, and I was reeling from that. I don't know what you guys were doing, but all my girlfriends and I were phoning each other and literally commiserating. There's a sexual predator who's now leader of the free world. Wow, that didn't see that coming. And then when the Weinstein stuff hit later on in the year, though this is not even close to the entertainment industry that we have here in Canada, though I've never been out of work as an actor, I'm still not a famous person in terms of entertainment. And we were just it felt like body blows, you know? And I thought, oh man, I have to actually tell it like it is. So much of my life has been taken up with either being that girl on purpose and making it a sort of a lark, you know, or a calling card of sorts or an image. And then alternately fighting through a bunch of stuff that really needn't have been there for some of the roles that I was up for.
Mm-hmm. Well, you call yourself a sexual abuse survivor with a big personality.
Yeah. They're hard to reconcile.
It is because you couldn't speak up?
I couldn't speak up. I mean, I'm 5'10", and I'm not a small woman, and I'm loud, and I've always lived out loud, so my processes happen, you know, visually and loudly, and they always have. And but yes, when things happened, I don't think I was anything different than any other woman out there, or a lot of women out there, where I froze. And I wasn't able to speak up. And I wasn't believed if I did speak up. And I also felt like, did I invite this myself? Because I'm one of those
felt
girls.
guilty.
See, that's why I asked you, because I think some women feel, well, you know, I'm small and I'm very junior and I'm not that outgoing.
That's right.
And so they have an even greater fear. But if someone like you, who is very confident and has a big personality and seems to be, you know, in control.
Right.
If you had issues saying something, then it's far more understandable that most women would.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. And I also respect the fact that some women are never going to talk about it. You know, the last chapter of my book, I'm Not Naked, it's titled Maiden Mother Crone. And I started it with the story of my daughter, how I raised my daughter, she's 17 now, consciously, very differently, and how I went through a bunch of stuff that, like, you couldn't even make this
What do you mean
up.
consciously, very differently?
Well, and then I finished with my mom by saying she could not talk about this stuff. And she had her own stories, and she did not want to acknowledge mine. So it just can't, you know, you can't force somebody into being what they are not able to do for themselves. So along with this whole Me Too thing, it encompasses women who stay quiet for various reasons in a variety of ways. And it encompasses men who are also part of that culture that they grew up with. And it encompasses children from different generations. And I wanted to break that, even though we weren't into the Me Too yet. When I decided to keep my child, which was a conscious decision, and I knew I was having a girl, I went, great. I'm going to do this completely differently. And I did.
Now, you were sexually abused at the age of 2.
Yes.
By a neighbor. And you then ended up living on the same street as this person. And you never sought revenge or punishment.
By the time, isn't that strange? Like you can't make this stuff up. Like I have had a very unusual life, but some things are just like, what? You know, they're just so unusual. I was in touch with his daughters at the time, and I made up some story about wanting to find him because I was toying with the idea of bringing him to court. This was, early 2000s, and I found him living on the same 2-block street as me in Toronto, where we started in Brossard, Quebec, all those years ago. So I went into immediate victim. Oh my God, I'm 2 years old all over again. And then I went, wait a second, wait. So, and it turns out that he was no longer living there by the time I had looked up that address. And I thought, no, I'm done with that. I'm done with many things, including being angry.
Well, on a lighter note, the chapter on your marriage to Margaret Atwood's son is a hoot. Why don't you tell our listeners about that one?
Oh, that was a very interesting time in my life. I was with that family for 7 years. It was Margaret Atwood's stepson, Matthew. I was with them for 7 years. I was madly in love with Matthew and just a complete moron at the time in my life, and was in a very big, what I would consider a culture clash of, I'm from Montreal, I'm Irish, I'm French Canadian, we're loud, we're funny, we're, everything happens all at once and hands are flying all the time. And then in their house, that's not what happens. Everything is very measured and very Anglo and very... It's different. I was not comfortable with it at all. And plus I was told I had to hide the fact that I was stripping, where I actually met him in a strip bar. I met him there, and I continued to strip because if I didn't pay the bills, they were never paid on time or at all. So I had to continue.
You supported him?
For a time, yeah. Yeah.
Did Margaret ever find out?
Yes, I went to lunch with her.
And how did she react? She doesn't strike me as a woman that would have been that dismayed.
Dismayed is never, I think, in her repertoire. I think it's safe to say that I've never met anyone who uses silence so ruthlessly.
Chill. Frozen out. Okay. So this book, I'm Not Naked Anymore, Memoirs of a Contemporary Jezebel. It's on Amazon now. You have a launch party on March 22nd at the Painted Lady. What do you want people to take away from the book?
That it's okay to be you, all that encompasses. It's really the first time. I waited for the other shoe to drop. When this first whole Me Too thing started, I was like, when is it going to, the backlash is going to start? And it has started. That's what we were worried about. Never stopped. This keeps marching forward. And as more and more people join this thing, I'm now beginning to see where it's going to end up, and just some very new places. So this is not only a good read, because really, I look at that myself and I go, it's a miracle I'm alive, first of all, literally. And secondly, it's a funny read because I had to make the most of situations that were thrown at me at the last minute. And I think a lot of women can relate to that. A lot of women are reading the book and going, oh my God, me too. Of course, right? So I'd like them to have that permission to do that. And I'd like us to have some fun with this, because we have to bring some levity to the next wave of what's going on. I don't think that getting angry is going to solve anything.
But what do you think about the backlash? Because we've been worried about it. We've already heard companies saying, well, maybe I won't hire women anymore. And then the response to that is, well, maybe they should just hire women. And it's like, no. It's like, so how do you feel?
We have to learn to live together, men and women.
We do. A man said the same thing to me. See, when a man asks me that, it's a very different feeling. My back goes up, and then I go, okay, wait. We all were steeped in the same conversation. We all came from the same general. I'm talking my generation here. And I said to him, well, women have been kept down for a long time now, and maybe it's time for men to just stand in that fire and listen well. And then have a little bit of compassion, going, wow, well, that's where we've been all this time. And now maybe you guys are going to be taking a back seat too for a little while. And it's okay, but as long as it's done fairly. I don't like to participate in any of these witch hunts. I find them offensive to everyone. They're not serving anyone. So I have a very balanced view, I think, of both sexes and where we're going. I'd like to take that message out.
And there is an onus to raise your sons well.
Yes, and well means not apologizing for their sexuality either.
No,
that's a big thing.
But just making sure that there is mutual respect.
Very much so, yeah.
So, Sonya, your website is for people that want to reach you there?
SonyaCôté.com with a Y. And The Painted Ladies at 6 p.m. It's an early show.
So excellent. Yeah, because we all like to get to bed a little earlier these days, don't we?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. The book is I'm Not Naked Anymore, Memoirs of a Contemporary Jezebel. It's available on Amazon now. The author is Sonya Côté. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
She said